Welcome to Greek for a Week. This week we are looking at Philippians chapter 3, verse 17, which is the beginning verse of the paragraph 17 through 21, which is what we will be discussing here in the next couple of weeks, imitating Paul and others. So I think this particular paragraph, Paul discusses how the Philippian church can not only imitate Paul, but also be on the lookout for others that have the same mindset and the same understanding of unity that I think Paul has been pushing for throughout the letter. So here, chapter 3, we'll look at verse 17. So we'll translate here where he says, "Brethren, be fellow imitators of me, and look out for those who walk in this way according to the pattern you have in us." So a few comments, especially as we look at the various verbal forms here in this particular verse. But let's begin with how Paul fronts this particular verse, which I would contend, as does Varner, and Varner's commentary there in the Baylor Handbook. He makes the comment, the fronting of the noun, and this would be the noun here that he's referencing. The fronting of this noun plus the imperative, geneste, that marks a shift really from Paul, chapter 3, verses 12 through 15, to the Philippians here in this verse, chapter 3, verse 17. The noun here is likely to have been coined by Paul, which would make it a true hapax legomenon, which simply means that this is the only place that it occurs in the New Testament. Sum memetai, and that is to be a fellow imitator. So you have your verbal form geneste here, which is your imperative. That is the second person plural, present middle imperative of genomai. And again, Varner notes here that I think is quite interesting is that this is the first imperative since chapter 3, verse 2. The other imperative that follows the kai here is the skapete, second person plural, present active imperative of skapeo. And notice that when you have the final letter here of your verbal form, skapeo, is an epsilon. So that epsilon, when it interacts with the imperatival form of ete, you are left with two epsilons together. And because both of those epsilons are together, they contract, giving us an epsilon and an iota with the circumflex above both vowels. The tous, peri patuntas, here's your tous, which is your article. That is an article that precedes the peri patuntas. That is an article, again, that precedes a participle, which then is a substantival participle, hence the translation, those who walk. That is a present active participle, masculine, accusative, plural of peri pateo. Then you also have here a kathos, kathos, which is your comparative term here. You could say according to, you could say just as, or I think it could also be causal, because of the pattern you have in us. That is, follow those who walk in this way. So again, I think that's kind of an exegetical decision there that might be a bit difficult to draw that line so distinctly, but I think according to fits just well. Then you're left with a hemos, the personal pronoun here, changes again from mu. Up here, Paul says, be an imitator of me. So there's your mu. And then down here, we have a hemas. So the singular form to the plural form, which I think the plural form there would not only include Paul, but also Timothy and Epaphroditus. And again, those two were examples that Paul used to illustrate the same mindset that he was asking of the Philippians earlier in the letter. So I think the change here from singular to plural is so that Paul can include those who are with him. So there's verse 17 that kind of kicks off a new paragraph, verses 17 through 21. Hope this is helpful. And next week, we will look at verses 18 and 19 and continue to move forward. Have a great week.